Welcome to the 2022 fall release for Sabelli-Frisch wines. I'm Adam, winemaker, chief of kind of everything. And can you believe it, this shitty video, I have 25 years as a cinematographer behind me, but it doesn't look that way right now. But, I try my best here in the little warehouse. I thought I'd dress up too, because I got so sick of seeing myself in all the Instagram shots in dirty clothes and just kind of, so I thought I'd put a jacket on and a tie. Anyway, like I said, there's 5 new wines in this release, and let's just briefly go through them. That's the new Gordon W. 2019 Alicante Bouschet. It's been sold out for the 2018 I made previously. It's been sold out for about 6 months, so I think there's a lot of people who look forward to this one. Here's the new Hernan Mission, which is my kind of little plusher, more evolved Mission. Normally a little bit bigger as well in style, and definitely this year. We'll talk about that individually, but this is the 2020 vintage. Here is my Milk-Fed 5. Milk-Fed, as you know, is my limited edition series. They're all numbered. This is 1,200 bottles, so this was made. This is once again Petit Manseng. And those of you who've been following me know that I released the Petit Manseng for Milk-Fed 2, also limited edition. That was a skin contact white. This is the very opposite of that. No skin contact whatsoever on this. I'll talk about that more in depth. Here is, of course, the 2021 Syrah from the little Knowles Vineyard in Lodi. 2019 Luciades Tintas Cao. The last year I made this wine. It's finally ready for release, and it's very, very nice right now. It's a beautiful little wine. I'll talk about that more. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. So let's start with the Gordon W. 2019 Alicante Bouschet. This is a wine that many people loved. And for those of you who remember, maybe the first vineyard I made this wine from was in Lodi, and they had a kind of a spraying accident in 2019, and I couldn't take the fruit from there. So I had to find another grower, and I find Jeff Tamayo from Tamayo Vineyards in Contra Costa County. So I kind of shifted vineyard from 2018 to 2019, which this is. And the interesting thing is that it shows the great typicity, I think the correct word is, for Alicante Bouschet, because Alicante Bouschet is very true to itself. And it doesn't seem to change very much when it comes to terroir. This is very, very similar to the one from Lodi from 2018. And that's kind of a testament to Alicante Bouschet. And it's very interesting. It has those typical kind of Alicante Bouschet markers. It's got an almost animalistic, fruit-heavy, almost a little bit bloody and sanguine. The other thing with Alicante Bouschet, which is very interesting, is that it's almost impervious to kind of oak influence. Even if it has 100% new oak, you can't really tell from one that isn't oaked at all. Which is very interesting, because most wines don't behave that way. It just has that strong character of its own, strong backbone, and it's kind of impervious to any influences. As you can see, Alicante is very often used as a Teinturier grape, to kind of give color to other in field blends and stuff, and it is a very dark wine, I love a little wine, not at all heavy on its feet, even though it sounds like when I'm describing it that it should be a heavy wine, but it's not. It's only 12.5% alcohol. It just has that character that no other wine has, and it's just Alicante Bouschet. Milk-Fed 5 Petit Manseng from the Syrah Vineyard in El Dorado County. Those of you who follow me know that Milk-Fed is the generic term for all my limited edition wines, where I kind of get free rein to play around with any kind of grape and any kind of style that I want to do. And they're all numbered. This is 1,200 bottles is made of this. Petit Manseng is, of course, a grape I've made before in the Milk-Fed 2, which was an orange skin contact kind of white, and I wanted to make a completely different expression. And I think I've done that. No skin contact on this. However, 100% new American oak. American winemakers should be using more American oak and be proud of that. This is a whole conversation we can get into maybe at a different time, but it doesn't make very much sense to me to you know, grow organic grapes and farm really well and try to be as low intervention as you can, and then ship oak barrels from France to America, which is what most wineries do here in America. When we have perfectly fine American oak growing in the Midwest that can make really nice oak barrels. But I'm a big fan of American oak. But you need to be a little bit subtle with American oak. You have to be a little bit more subtle than you do with perhaps with French oak, because it can quite easily overpower. But this one, I wanted to make an expression with 100% American oak. And that's what I've done. Let's try it out. Look at that color. Beautiful, darker yellow. But American oak is very rarely used on white wines. In general, because it's considered maybe a little bit too powerful for that. Yeah, wonderful. I mean, not at all what you think. You know, it just defies description in a way. On the nose, I get like a oaked Chardonnay, but that's not what I get on the palate. There's a little bit of candied, dried fruits somehow. And this is why I released it in fall, because I thought it'd be a very good match for kind of winter dishes and stuff, because it has a little bit more heft than maybe, you know, my acid-driven summer whites that I normally tend to make, but still light enough that you can just drink it on its own. Doesn't need food, but it'll go really well with food. 1,200 bottles made, milk fed 5, limited edition. Yeah, you should try it. 19 Luciades Tintas Cao. And the first thing you notice, it's a completely different bottle. It's the new lightweight bottle that I started using last year, and it saves so much weight. And better for the environment, better for my back, better for shipping, better for everything. And it's funny, you know, when you start out as a new winemaker, you're very eager to make a good impression, and you go for the big, heavy glass. I think a lot of wineries, smaller wineries, tend to do that in the beginning. Because, yeah, you want to impress people and say, oh, I'm high quality, right? But at the end of the day, it's just a waste of energy and time and money for everyone involved. It's, you know, shipping heavy glass all over the world makes absolutely no sense. So lighter bottles are so much better. It's such a radical difference between this one. This one is more of a hits you over the head. It's a big, steaky wine, and this one is much more, I hate to say it because I'm not supposed to say it, but much more feminine in a way, much more rounded and elegant, you know. And it's really, really a nice wine. It's one of my favorites in this release, actually, because it's so kind of different than this one. 2019 is also the last year I made a Tintas Cao, mainly because Jeff Tameo, who owns the vineyard, he was selling the property. And also because Tintas Cao is not the easiest of sells to people, because it's a Portuguese grape made in America. People get confused about it, and most people haven't even heard of the grape. So, you know, for a small winery like myself, that's sometimes hard to keep doing a wine that isn't easy to kind of market, you know. So unfortunately, this is the last year. I only made 40 cases of this 2019. No oak. Super elegant, lovely, lovely wine. 2020 Hernan Mission from the Somers Vineyard in McKillen Glen, which is Lodi. And those of you who've been with me know that I did this in 2019 as well. In 2019, it was trying to make a different expression of Mission from the same vineyard by harvesting a little bit later and using pretty much 100% new oak on it, to kind of make a completely different expression. That wine was very, very loved by a lot of people, and it sold out. So I'm very happy to be able to bring it back for 2020. Now, what happened in 2020 was two things happened in 2020. It was a pretty hot year. Normally, sugar levels go up an expected level each week. Some of those vines that just went nuts, and they could go up 3 bricks in sugar in 1 week, and you could very easily find yourself behind the curve and having to harvest when fruit's almost too ripe already. So the wines from 2020 from the Somers Vineyard are in general larger than they were the previous years. But it was also a stylistic choice this year for Hernan, because I felt that the first year I did it in 2019, they were almost a little bit too similar because I kind of harvested them very close to each other. So in 2020, I harvested this much later to kind of increase the difference between the two and make it even greater stylistic variance, basically. Not normally my house style. My house style is more leaner, acid-driven wines. But this year, I wanted it to go big. But it's very, very elegant in its bigness. And, well, classic Mission, the color is still pretty light. You know, that it's not a great coloring grape, Mission. It's a little deeper than the other one, but still on the lighter side for such a big wine. You know, there's certainly a little more heft there. Classic Mission notes, strawberry, a little bit of Campari, bitters are there, you know. Classic markers, pepper, some earthiness, maybe a little mushroom going on. I love it. A perfect winter Mission. This would be perfect with some sort of bisque or some sort of hearty soup. And those of you who are big fans of Hernan, this is right in your wheelhouse, I think. Just a little bit more than last time. Paris 2021 Syrah from the little Knowles Vineyard in Lodi. And this year, 2021, was the lowest yield it had ever produced. So only 20 cases of this has been made. 2021 was also a pretty ripe year. It was very, very hot. We had those spiky kind of temperatures where Brix levels, you know, sugar levels in grapes could go nuts in like 1 week. And it was hard to catch the right moment. And I harvested this about 2 Brix higher than I normally pick this vineyard, veering into that more, you know, Paso Robles style almost of Syrah. But despite being kind of on the bigger side and not really the house style I normally tend to do, I love this. This is amazing this year, I think. It reminds me of, like I said, Paso Robles style. It reminds me of, you know, those slightly larger Syrahs from that region. And yeah, let's just have a little sip. You can see deep color. It spends a little bit of time on oak, but very short period, just to kind of round it out a little bit. And you can barely tell these days. On the first vintage I made, you could tell that it had some oak on it. Now, hard to spot, I think. Darker fruits on the nose for sure. Yeah. This is lovely. Much more enveloping, warmer, bigger, heartier. Food, stews, in cast iron pots, stuff like that. I wouldn't say it's as big as a Paso Robles wine. I would say it's halfway to a Paso Robles Syrah. And because it doesn't really have that oak influence, it doesn't have that lumbering kind of bigness to it. It's still got a little bit of freshness to it. Only 23 cases of this made, like I said, or 20 after I take away the library amount. So this is gonna sell out pretty fast, I think. Also because the yield was so low that year and it cost me much more per bottle to make this. I'm gonna have to raise the price a little bit on this, I'm sorry. But that's just how it is these days, inflation and all this bad stuff that's so boring. But yeah, don't miss this, 20 cases. It's gonna sell out. Lovely, lovely winter wine.